In the summer of 2015, I found myself driving alone on Highway 66 from a party. It was almost midnight, and needless to say, it was pitch black, as was usual at night at this part of the country. I was on edge, and I had the radio off. I could hear nothing but the muffled roar of tires on pavement and the dull hum of the engine. I glanced over to the middle rearview mirror and saw nothing but darkness through the back window. I know that I looked backward and saw nothing, I'm sure of it, but just the seemingly endless blackness of the night is all I can remember seeing. I just remember it so clearly because not 10 seconds later a car passed me to the left, headlights on, and I had one of those sudden adrenaline rushes that you think when you see a person outside your bedroom window when it's really just a tree. Or maybe when you're awake at night and you have that feeling of just falling endlessly. 10 seconds earlier, nothing had been behind me, not a soul, but suddenly a car. I drove the rest of the way home shivering and knowing that something was off. The next morning, I found 2 sets of scratches near the back of my van. One was on the left rear and one was on the right. To be fair, my van is pretty old. These marks could have been there for a while, but this was my first time actually noticing these marks and seeing them, and at least it catching my attention. In hindsight, there's 2 possibilities for what had happened that night. The first possibility, by some glitch in reality, or something maybe paranormal, this other car had somehow appeared behind me within 10 seconds of me checking my mirror, like some weird ghost train or something. Or the second option, which makes my blood run cold anytime I consider it. It didn't occur to me until months after the fact, but it really makes me dread driving alone at night even more. So, the possibility that I'm thinking of was that the car was normal. It had approached me from the rear end and passed me to my left. However, what I'm considering is something large enough to cover up the whole backside of the window could have been clinging to the back of my car, blocking my view through the rear window and leaving scratches on the sides. Now, I know this may not seem possible, but there is a ladder on the back of my van, so it would make sense that something were to be holding on the whole time, and I had inadvertently driven it home with me. A couple years ago, I went for a sleepover at my friend's house. My friend lives in one of those historic districts, so all of the houses there are very old. Directly under her room is a basement that had no door to it. We knew this because we walked around the house a lot when we were talking, and we noticed that, and she always mentioned it to me. The previous owners of the house had built a wall so no one can enter the basement. No one knows why. So that night, at 2 a.m., we decided to go to sleep. We both got woken up at around 3:30 in the morning by some weird noises coming from directly underneath us. We didn't really pay too much attention at first, but the noises suddenly got louder and louder. It was almost as if somebody were walking around the room, but crunching on something like an apple or something like that, and talking. I absolutely know that it sounds weird, but if you were there at 3:30 in the morning and these are the noises that you heard, you would understand. So, as the eating and crunching and talking noises were getting louder, we were really tired and we just wanted to sleep. So, we both just yelled "shut up" really loudly, without thinking. And shortly after we said that, the noises stopped. So, we went back to sleep. The next day, we woke up and we decided to do some exploring around the house after we got some rest, only to find a hole in the wall that was built to prevent us from going into the basement. The hole was big enough for us to see what was inside of the basement, and we were shocked by what we saw. There were piles of rotten potatoes in there. Each one of them was set on the ground in a straight line, leading to each and every pile, but each potato had a bite mark in it. We immediately screamed and we freaked out. We ran upstairs and we never went down there again. We immediately told my friend's mom and dad, so I'm writing this story today and I'll keep you updated on what happens. This happened in the fall of 2012. I live in a fairly remote part of Virginia. The name of the city's Front Royal, so I'm not too sure if you've heard of it. But I was minding my own business driving down Highway 55, hopefully to get home before the sun had completely set. So there was a certain amount of light out, so I could kind of see where I was going for the most part. I don't like to drive at night because my vision isn't the best. So I continued down this road, and one of the biggest things I noticed was the amount of vegetation surrounding me. I am into nature, so I appreciated the drive. As I began down the road, I noticed that a car was coming up into view, but the car was sideways. This was a 2-lane highway, so with the car being sideways, there was no way for me to get around it without slightly going off the shoulder of the road. As I began to approach this sideways car, I slowed my car down because I saw the strangest thing. First, I saw clothes lined up along the sides of the road. It looked like suitcases may have fell off the top of the car. But then as I got closer, I noticed that there were 2 bodies laying on the ground. It was strange because they were laying face down, as if they were dead. But I thought to myself, this could be an emergency situation, so I could either help out or I could just turn around or just drive through and act like I didn't see anything. I was confused at this point, but my heart started to race because I just had to make a decision. This may not seem that creepy, but if you were there, you'd understand. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I slowly approached the 2 bodies on the ground. I thought to get out and help, but I just didn't want to. I clutched the steering wheel, and I grabbed for my pocket knife just in case. As I drove by, I slowed down and I took a look at the 2 bodies. The suitcases looked like somebody just threw them on the sides with all the clothes scattered throughout the side of the road. As I pull up as close as I can in the car to the 2 bodies, I unlock my door. I have a good heart, so it was inside me to just help out any way I could. So, as soon as I begin to open the door, I see one of them take a deep breath. So I saw them moving. I saw the other body grip the floor as if they were getting ready to shoot up and attack. As soon as I noticed that, I quickly slammed the door and I gunned the gas pedal. As I gain distance from the scene, my heart begins to race faster and faster. I look in my rearview mirror just to see the 2 people who were laying down get up and a whole group of people come out of the sides from the woods and all look towards me. In my head, I just thought, how could I be so foolish? It was the perfect setup. It was almost too perfect. But this is a reminder to anybody, if you do have a good heart, just be double sure that you're not hurting yourself in the process of trying to help other people. I avoided an ambush, and I learned my lesson.